Well, welcome back, Richard.
Thank you.
And again, thanks for joining me.
Thanks.
So during this chat, I'd like to just talk about your coaching of elite athletes, who they are, what are the training that was involved, where you travelled to, where you base yourself in Europe. So just take us through a bit of a journey on coaching elite athletes.
Okay. So where would you like me to start?
Well, why don't we start at the very start? So who was your first, did you develop your first elite athlete?
Yeah, the first athletes, actually my first national athlete, national medalists, was as I mentioned before, Brett Edwards, 800 metre, I think silver at nationals, under 20s, I think it was. I can't remember the year, I think it was 97 maybe. I sort of didn't come into senior athletics until about 92, 93. I was always Laths up until then, till my children had left Laths. Then in the late 90s, Hayley McGregor, who's now Hayley Field, I coached her up until she was about 19 or 20 or under 20s. Then I handed over her to Pam Turney because I thought the job was too big for me. Then Vicky Mitchell came down as she was a little athlete, and she lived just outside of Mansfield, and she was tied to, can't remember the name of the club, but it was up northern Victoria. I'd go up there and do little coaching sessions with little lads. I'd see Vicky there, and Vicky invited down to come down to Knox. She asked me to coach her. So she came down to Knox, and I write her programs and send up programs to home. Now that would have been the very, very early days of internet, and so I'd send a program up, and she'd have to send back if she did a session, we used the smiling faces or sad faces, emojis.
Yeah.
You don't call them, they weren't called emojis back then, but we'd do an emoji, and I'd have these series of faces that I think I might have stole off the VIS for some of their things that they were doing, and she'd have to send back a grumpy emoji or a smiling face emoji, and we'd sort of work out training, and I had all these test levels of exertion and all that she'd work through, and that's how I started with Vicky. Vicky was moving to Ballarat. I think that was around about 2003, something like that. I can't remember exactly. No, it might have been earlier. Vicky could have been around 2000 because she moved to Ballarat, so I rang up Rod Griffin and said, I've got this really good girl, I'd like you to take over. And Rod could tell you more of a story on Vicky probably from that. Then she left Rod and went to Butler University in US. And then when she came back, she was a steeplechaser there. And and the rest is history.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes. Rod has had a chat with us about Vicky. Yeah.
Nick Badeau coached Vicky for many, many years. Tim O'Shaughnessy's coached Vicky. She's had quite a few different coaches over the years. So, no, she's had a very good athletic career.
Yeah, she has had a long athletic career, hasn't she? Yeah, very fortunate. So, who else have you
From there I went on, we had, Caitlin Knight was an excellent little athlete, junior athlete. I think she won her first AV medal and first AV championships. She won under 16 800 in, I think it was up at Bendigo. They were doing something, they were doing up the Olympic Park, and they had they had the Vic Championships in, I think it was Bendigo or Ballarat. And anyway, Hayley Tomlinson, a girl by the name of Hayley Tomlinson, another coaching friend of mine at the time, Wes Windsor, was coaching, and she was the favourite for winning that race. But Kayla, I don't know, have you ever met Kayla?
Yeah, I have.
She's the most determined, one of the most determined athletes I've ever coached. And if she said she was going to do something, she'd do it.
Yeah.
And she came out and won that under-16 race and became an Australian champion. And that was the start. Then she gave it away, basically straight after that. And 2 years later, as I was saying before, she came back and she said she wanted to represent Australia at Uni Games in Serbia. And yeah, and then she went on from there. And I coached her during that period of time. Then I think it was around about 2011, something like that. She moved over to Nick.
Yeah.
Might have been a little bit before, but it was around then. So she was
Around the time Jeff
Yeah.
moved over, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, it was more of an opportunity thing. I never had access to gear off Nikes or sponsorships or whatever. Nick, and still today, has a brilliant setup for that.
Yeah.
And it's a pity other coaches struggle to develop that setup. Adam, like I said, Adam Diddick's getting himself a very good setup, and he wants to maybe set himself up in a similar coaching position. But anyway, at the time I thought it was the best for both Jeff and Kayla. There was also Geordie Williams,
Yes.
who's not up on the board, who's represented
Geordie.
Australia
Yeah.
many times.
Went over to the US on a scholarship.
Went over to Villanova and did very well in US. He's, I think he's in the, not the Hall of Fame, they've got a special name. That I think he's got his photo up in the main hall of,
Yeah.
Sonia O'Sullivan has also.
Yes. It was that fantastic
yeah.
kick down in the NCAA's finals, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Yeah. You travelled over there to see him, didn't you?
I've travelled a couple of
Yeah.
times over to see him, yeah. Yeah, not just him, but to catch up with the other athletes in the US.
Yeah.
Lyndon Hall, I'd catch up with her. Whoever was there, at one stage I had 5 athletes in US,
Yeah.
and I went round to
Is that
all the
right?
athletes and visited a lot of them.
That was nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some of the unis over there are very good. As you know, probably some of them are not so good. Some of them are very caring, and some of them are just, yeah, they're just out to get what they can out of the athletes, unfortunately. But on the whole, most of them are pretty good.
Yeah. It can be a good vessel, can't it? From
It can be, but again, it's very coach-driven. And if you get a good coach, make sure you've got a good coach, and the coach has got a good setup over there. I've got nothing against it.
Yeah. It can be a good development time for
Yeah.
athletes transitioning from juniors
Yeah.
to seniors, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I was very impressed with Villanova's setup, for example. It was terrific.
So, what involvement did you have with Jeff and Kayla with the Com Games and going into the Olympics?
Com Games, we talking Glasgow?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, first off, let's go back to 2012. I didn't have a lot to do with them. I didn't go to the Olympics that year. I thought Jeff was comfortable enough, his family were going over there. Same with Kayla's, and I thought, well, then they really won't need me. I won't get to see them a lot. So I decided not to go over.
Yep. Where was that?
That was in London.
Yep.
Yeah. However, after they finished London, that's when they both decided to move away from Nick, and They were going through difficulties at the time doing that. Not just doing that, but there was other things around them that they were having issues with. So anyway, they made the break, and that's when we all got together. There was Kayla and Jeff and some of the local, my athletes that I was coaching at the time, like the Pattersons.
Yep.
We all got together and said, well, let's get our own group going, and we, as far as the elite group goes.
Yep.
And we just went from there. I was lucky enough to get a gig on the team at Glasgow, and that made it very easy to have those athletes with Melissa.
Was Melissa
Kayla.
in the group then?
Melissa was actually being coached by Pam.
Yep.
When I say coached by Pam, Pam had passed away.
Yeah.
Again, I'd handed Melissa over to Pam because I thought that's as much as I could do with her at the time. And again, the days are different now, and I don't see any issue if an athlete wants to move on, if they believe they can better themselves. And I think the proof's been in the pudding with the athletes that I've coached, that they have gone on and done some pretty good things.
Yeah.
I still keep in contact very much with Melissa and her family. She's got a very, very good sponsorship with, I can't say the name, but it's Japanese. Shiseido, and she's working in Japan at the moment and absolutely loves the role she's playing over there and training with the Japanese athletes. Com Games, getting back to Jeff and Kayla, they both had very good games. Jeff had excellent games. Probably he was in the best form I'd ever seen him in. Although he never PB'd, he was concentrating mainly on 8, but he ran, I think, one in the 144s 3 times over a period of about 15 months, and not many athletes have done that. And at that time, it was in a very, very small group that have done it.
Yeah.
He's probably he is the most constant 144 800 metre runner we've had. And I think if you go through his time, he's probably the most consistent under 145 we've had so far.
What do you put that down to? What was it about Jeff?
I got to say, Jeff had unbelievable, and still has got, unbelievably good or great natural talent. You've only got to look at his build. You've only got to look at his legs. He's like, I put him to a horse, but he's like a racehorse, but he's like a racehorse. And he's a guy that you can only do a certain amount of work. You can't, he's had some injuries over a period of time that maybe he shouldn't have had, plantar fascias, Achilles injuries. Every athlete's going to get injuries, but he's had a massive share, and where you get someone like Kayla McKnight that's hardly had an injury. Jeff, he had, just getting back to Common Games, he had a great 2014 season. 2015, he got injured, snapped his plantar in Beijing. He made the semi-final. He ran a really good race in the heat to make the semi-final, and had to come home straight away. And that kept him out basically up until around 2017. He had to have an operation. And then he did his Achilles straight after that, and it was another operation. And like I said, now 2019, he's in getting himself in very, very good nick. Can't wait for the summer season to start. Kayla now is, as we know, married. She's Kayla Hutchison now. She's a mother of two, thoroughly enjoying life down at Lee and Gatha. She's she's come off a dairy farm and she's gone back, not to dairy farming, but she's gone back to the country life from which she come from. Always been a fun athletic to coach. Did very well again at Com Games. Melissa Duncan did very well at Com Games also. They both made finals.
So during that time, what kind of training were they doing? What sessions, examples can you give of what they were doing at those times?
They'd do maybe 2 hard sessions a week, 1 aerobic and 1 anaerobic. Of course, there was thresholds involved in that, and fartleks, and your long run on the Sunday.
Were they training every day? Did they have a rest day in there?
They were training every day at that time. Yeah, there was unloading weeks every 4 to 5 weeks, depending on the severity of training. And
so did you unload through Ks, or was it through how hard the sessions were? How did you?
Both.
Both.
Yeah. Later on, we've not so much Kayla, but with Jeff and Zach and James. They have the Friday. They were having Fridays off.
Mm-hmm.
What we've done now, we've changed that around to training-wise. Their rest day now is Sunday.
Yep.
There's a couple of reasons. James is a very Christian guy, and his wife's very Christian, Philly, and they like their Sunday mornings, and their Sunday is their day of rest. So Jeff has also adopted the Sunday, and Tom maybe still does a bit of a run Sundays, but Zach at the moment is also having the Sunday off.
A lot of the US colleges run like that, have the Sunday off.
Yeah, they do. And it's working all right. Training at the moment with those boys is basic. We're doing a track session about every 10 days. Tuesday's normally threshold. Fartlek. Thursday's threshold. And the thresholds are getting longer, the fartleks are getting harder, or more intense.
Yep.
The track session is normally anywhere from, for an example, it might be a mile stepping down to 200 metres, which Jeff did the other day.
What kind of recoveries is he having there?
It depends, but normally around a minute. When it gets to lower, it gets down to 30 seconds. Shorter, it gets down to 30 seconds.
And faster, or faster pace?
No, normally they're getting faster as they step down,
Yeah.
which is a natural thing. So it gradually gets quicker.
Yeah.
For example, their 1600 might be in 72s, or 68s, anywhere between 68s and 72s. And by the time they hit 400, they're down to, 56s, 55s.
Yeah.
And then the 200s normally round, for Jeff it's normally around 25, 26 at the moment. So, so that's the way it's working at the moment.
Yep.
There's a health session virtually once a week.
Okay.
At the moment, as we speak, we've had a couple of sessions at Police Paddocks, but then we're going to level out on this coming Saturday, and we'll go to Birdsland and do 10 1Ks. So that's just bit of variation.
Yeah.
But you were keeping hills going. We've got a couple of places we do the hills, naturally, police paddocks.
Yeah.
And then we've got another variation at what we call Abbey Walk, which is in Vermont,
Yep.
that area.
And what about the threshold? How are you doing that? Is that just you just going out for a length of time thresholding, or are you breaking it up into smaller chunks?
No, at the moment we're just going out later time, but we're trying to increase that time. So it's sort of threshing at 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes,
Yep.
35, and just try to push it a little bit longer.
And how many Ks are the athletes doing roughly at the moment?
I just do around 100 a week at the moment. Zach's doing around 70 to 80. Tommy Forthorpe's doing about 125, 130. James has competed over our winter in Europe,
Yeah.
so he's only been back from rest for about a month, and he's on about 85 at the moment.
James had quite a good season.
He's had a very good season. Yeah. He's been very consistent, the most consistent he's ever been. We trained in the last 2 years. We've trained in Leuven, and James came to Leuven this year and trained and did a lot of work with Luke Matthews, Maddie. What's Maddie's second name? Steeplechaser.
Hi.
No, Matt Clark.
Oh, Matt
Matty
Clark.
Clark.
I'm saying Matt.
Yeah, I'm saying Maddie, but Matt.
Yeah, Matt. Yeah.
And Lyndon was over there. There's trying a big group. Peter Bowl and Joseph Ting were over there. And there was a really good group. There was a lot of athletes from some coming from US, some coming from the UK. So there was a really good group of athletes in Leuven this year.
What was the attraction to Leuven?
Facilities.
Yeah.
AA, we used to train in Cologne. When we spent 4 years in Cologne from 2014 to 2018 or 2017, so that was 4 years. We had physios and masseurs there at the time, AA provided. They stopped that, and University of Sydney Uni, managed to work out a relationship with the University in Leuven, sports university there, and so there's access to masseurs and physios there. Not as good as what AA had, mind you, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah.
The facilities are quite good. It's a beautiful little town. It's a walled city, very old walled city, now a university town in Belgium. And it's quite reasonably priced to live there.
Yeah, okay. So that's where you'll base yourself from now?
We'll probably go back to Leuven next year, yeah.
And how long do you stay there for?
Usually a month to 6 weeks. We're going to, this coming year, the plan is to try and get to altitude while we're over there, so we'll probably go to St. Moritz maybe, or we might even go back over to US and Flagstaff.
Yeah, okay.
So,
You've been to St. Moritz in other years, haven't you?
yes.
You and Jeff?
No.
No?
Jeff has been there with Nick in the early days,
Okay.
but I've been to St. Moritz.
Yep.
Not with a training group, but I've been to St. Moritz.
Yeah, it's a great training venue, isn't it?
It's magnificent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with Jeff, what's the plan going forward to qualify for Tokyo?
We'll do some races here. It's great that AA have got the plan out of what's happening in Australia and New Zealand, and we've had a look at what races we're doing. We haven't put anything down as gospel as yet, but we do the summer season, of course, try to get qualifiers there, naturally, and then after the Nationals, to Europe
Yeah.
before. The season's all squeezed in because of Tokyo. Yeah. But look, I won't say Zach is trying to get a qualifier for Tokyo, but the other boys will be out there trying. You know, Jeff, James definitely, Jeff definitely, Tommy will be looking at it, just hopefully he'll improve. He's going to do a stint which he's never done before in Europe this year.
Okay.
So hopefully we can get all the boys, the four of them over there, working together.
And you've had lots of experience taking athletes overseas. What are some tips you've got for athletes wanting to go and have a stint over there and compete in the European season?
Just in the first, all right, stepping off the plane, you get heading over to, say, a London or a Leuven or a Cologne, or stepping off the plane, take the first, if possible, take the first 10 days fairly easy. Just do thresholds and very light running and some longer runs. Competing can be hit or miss. If you just step off a plane, some of them have hit that tarmac and got as soon as they got off the plane and gone into races and ran very well. But the majority, you've got to really win yourself to the Northern Hemisphere a little bit, and then the training's basically the same as what it was over here. You're into your intensive intervals and reps and your fartleks and your hills, exactly like you are. Naturally, it's your training's built around your competition. So you've got to take in mind you've got competition, so you've got to ease up before competition, and then, you know, if you've got 2 weeks break, you know, back into it again. So
Looking after Tokyo, have you got your head around, as a coach, you've got your head around the new IAAF point system yet?
Sort of.
Yep.
Yeah. I think the plan is you have the point system, but go out and get it qualified. You know, that's really what we've got to try to do. And you know, the qualifiers have tightened up. The new systems seem to work very similar. I know it wasn't used in World Championships, but I was still using the roll down. But I don't know. Just looking at it, it's going to be sort of similar. The thing is, athletes have got to pick their events, and that's what it boils down to. Like, there's the ones that have been labelled by AA and Athletics New Zealand. You've got to pick those ones. Oceania has become very important now.
Definitely.
I hope they keep that going. I think the competition could have been better for this year, but it'd be good to get more athletes there.
Yeah, which I'm sure will be the case in the next
So
championship there.
I thought it was a really good competition. I enjoyed it. It was really well organised. So I hope they keep that going.
Yeah, definitely. You're training. Do you believe in cross-training? Do your athletes do much cross-training?
Yeah, they do. But they don't do a lot of cross-training, but I do believe in cross-training. They'll do cross-training if they're a little bit tight, a little bit sore. James cross-trains, probably the most out of the other boys. He swims a lot. You might not know, but he's one of the swimming coaches across the road. And so he's a very good swimmer.
Yeah, right.
You only got to look at his shoulders.
Yeah,
He's got swimming shoulders. So he does a bit of cross-training. The other boys will do it if they're a little bit sore.
Okay. It's not generally in their
No,
programs.
there was definitely quite a bit of cross-training when they were coming back from injury. Like Jeff was on a bike a lot when he was coming back from his Achilles surgery. Zach was on it quite a bit also.
How's Zach Paddo going? I mean, he was a really promising junior athlete, went to World Juniors.
Yep.
Yeah, what's...
He's going very well. He's had, the setbacks have been, it's always been the same injury. It's been to do with the Achilles, and he actually had some torn fibres.
Yeah.
I might have it wrong a little bit, but torn fibres on the, behind the Achilles, pointing to the torus, rare, down here.
To the insertion.
Insertion.
Yeah.
And had to have them, well, basically scraped and part of the bone cut away.
Yeah. Oh, did he have Hadlin's deformity, did he?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Jeff did too.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And they were both similar injuries. We sort of took a bit of advice with Zach a couple of years ago when he was going really good and didn't have no twinges or anything like that. And it was just suggested he have a crack at steeple. It turned out to be a bit of a disaster because his injury just blew up.
Yeah.
And it got worse. And I don't, we're to blame. It's not, I don't blame anyone else. But it set him back. He's training very, very well. I don't know if you've noticed his cross country. He's did a little bit of cross country this year and performed very, very well. But after running the one up at the St Anne's winery, he started to get a little bit of soreness again, so he just brought him right back.
Yep.
He's back training very well now.
Yeah, okay.
And he's doing sessions now, as we speak.
Was the hills at St Anne's, was it?
Yeah, he may run the mile, coming up at Milers Meet.
Okay, great.
And or he may even do the 5K. We'll just wait and see, just see how he progresses.
That'd be great.
But if he runs it, he's not going to be at full bore, he'll be, but just to run it,
Yeah,
see how he goes.
Yeah, that's terrific. It's good to see him back out there.
Yeah. I got to give that guy, and also point out Melissa Duncan.
Yeah.
They've had disastrous injuries over their career.
Yes, could have been career ending.
Yeah, and like a normal person to give it away.
Yeah.
And both Zach and Melissa especially, they've fought back. Jeff, I'll just tell you a little story. When he ran in Osaka last year, at the very, I think it was around March last year, we went over to Osaka. He ran that race, and it was going to be his last race. I don't think his mind was right in it. He was training really well, but I just think he had something in the back of the mind. We went to Leuven, and he ran one race in Hungary. And when he was over there, he wasn't well. He was taking painkillers, anti-inflammatories, and he just wasn't the Jeff that I really knew. He came back and had the operation on the Achilles. After he's come back from that operation, he's the Jeff of old.
Yeah.
And I think Melissa's like that since she's been training with Nick, going over to Japan. She's the Melissa of old. She's been injury-free for a couple of years now. Jeff is not on any anti-inflammatories. Hasn't been since he's had the operation.
Fantastic.
And I think that's made a massive difference to his body. And at 32, I think he's still young enough to have a crack.
Yeah,
for
definitely.
Tokyo. It's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, it's exciting.
I mean, he's got, he knows that he's not one of the superstars now in Australian athletics. He's someone that's got to have a crack like everyone else does.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And so some of your athletes, have had injuries and coming back from them. As a coach, how have you supported them and kept them in the sport?
always by being positive, I suppose, but I'd say every athlete you see up on that board would regard me as a friend. I don't think it, and I think every athlete I've ever coached has also been regarded as a friend. Never been in their pockets or trying to keep up with these teenagers or young guys or whatever that, but they know if they've asked me something, I've always tried to do it the best I possibly can. And I think that's part of coaching also. Just because an athlete either leaves you or decides to retire, you still try to keep them, you know, as friends. I think life's too short. For the likes of me, I can't understand why athletes get cranky at athletes if they leave and go to another coach. Fair enough, you might get cranky at the other coach. I can understand that, but I don't think there's any real reason to get cranky with the athlete. I think when the athletes are very, very young, they should try to stick with the coach a little bit, at least till they're through to under 20s, if possible, because it's a very stable environment. But if for some reason it doesn't happen, the other thing, just saying that, it's also very important for an athlete to have a group to train with. That'll keep them there longer if they've got a group. If they haven't got that group, there's a chance that they could leave and move on.
Yeah.
I think a training group is very important, whether it's a sprint group or a jumps group or a distance group, but the training group is most important.
And how big an influence, you know, I've heard Nick Bedeau speak on this before about, you know, the importance of really the essence of the group and the effect that the coach has on it, but also like, I suppose, some structure and rules around the group.
Yeah, well, the structure we have is, you know, one word: respect. Respect for your other athletes, respect for their coaches, respect for their families, because they're out there just like themselves. They're out there busting their butt to try to do the best they can, try to represent Australia, try to be an Olympian. So it's, you know, it's their that's all. It just all boils down to respect. It's all right to get on the track and not like your athlete, but I must admit personally, I don't like athletes bitching about other athletes. I just can't see the sense of it in it. I think it's negative. I think the other thing you've got to try to do is be positive all the time. I must admit, I don't like athletes to indulge themselves too much on social media. I prefer them not to, because that can lead to trolling. And it does happen because, you know, some athletes tend to get a bit bitchy. And, you know, I'm not saying it's all right to state, you know, your beliefs, but it's I just think social media is not good on the whole for when you're really focusing on training and focusing on becoming an Olympian or being an elite athlete. I think social media again has got to be treated with respect, and the way to do that is just be careful what you're putting out there.
Yeah, it's a tricky subject because the athletes definitely have to have a profile to be able to attract sponsorship.
That's a different matter. They can have a profile, but I think they've got to be careful of, you know, slagging off, for example.
What they post.
Mm-hmm.
What they post,
What
the
they
content
post,
of their
yeah.
posts. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So our coaches that are coming through now, what advice would you give them at each level? So let's start at the basic, let's start at like the club coach. What advice would you give a club coach?
Club coach, get with other coaches and learn as much as you possibly can off them. Invite other coaches to just have a look at your training group and see if they can assist. I'm really a strong believer that we don't use ourselves as much as what we can by helping other coaches out. Because when you help somebody else, you're really helping yourself also. Um,
What about at the developmental coach? So those...
Again, it's the same thing as learn, read and take in as much information as you can. Sort out the information that is relevant to you. It might be only one or two little things and then push the rest aside. A development coach, I would say, once you've, if you're writing programs for your athlete, write a program, lock that program in, don't keep chopping and changing. I think it confuses the athlete. But just lock the program in, whether you want to change it or not. Maybe wait till the end of a season or end of a training phase to make your adjustments. You can bring in little subtle things, but don't just completely say, walk onto a training track and say, right, I've thrown out what I've had out the door, we're going to do this. Because I think it just confuses athletes.
Yeah, and changes the load.
Yeah. And when they're developmental athletes, you also got parents more so involved, and it confuses the parent also.
Yeah. Now, talking about elite coaches, what advice have you got for those coaches, either heading into elite coaching or wanting to, or if they're actually doing it at the moment?
Well, I think becoming a so-called elite coach is it's basically, it's involved in it. Really, you become an elite coach when you're coaching elite athletes. Now, there's two ways of having elite athletes. One is you coach those athletes yourself, and you basically grow with the athlete. I can't say I didn't grow as a coach with, like not having having a Haley McGregor, I did. Having a Jeff Risley, I did. Having a Caleb Knight, Jordan Williams, Ryan Patterson, Zach Patterson. You're growing all the time with your athletes. And I think that's part of being an elite coach. When you've got an elite athlete, you tend to be classed as being an elite coach. The way of probably keep being an elite coach is to keep finding and coaching elite athletes. I think that's where Nick has been very successful. He's had a fantastic group. Chris Wardlaw back, at the turn of the century. It sounds ridiculous saying that. Around 2000 and the 90s and 80s, had a fantastic group at Glen Hubley. And because elite athletes tend to live off each other a little bit and get better off each other, having that competition within the group. So my advice for elite coaches would be, again, learn what you can. If you can get overseas, talk to coaches from overseas, from the different countries and see what they're doing, pick up from them, pick up from your coaches around locally from Victoria, and just by learning, I think, is the way you be.
So educate yourself through education, but also experience.
Yes,
yeah,
very much.
Learning from others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, I read a lot of articles. I probably tend to get more out of an article than what I do out of going to a talk where a coach is talking about their philosophies and their athletes. I tend, if I read about that coach or read about their athletes, I tend to, it sort of sinks in a little bit more, and I get more out of it.
Yeah.
But that's just me personally.
Not a visual learner.
I think I am a visual learner. I'm very much a visual learner. The reason I say that is I was never probably a superstar at school, although I was fairly good at maths. But I managed, which I'm very proud of, to have a business that I started in 1976. Still going. My son is running that business mostly now, but I'm still involved in it. I'm nearly 74 and still working. I'm not working 5 days a week.
Yeah.
I'm still working, and I've always been a guy that, well, I won't say can multitask, but I can manage work with play, which play is my athletics.
Yeah.
So,
Going
Yeah.
back all those years after your children left the sport, what was it about coaching that kept you in it?
having my kids were average athletes. They weren't really good athletes. I think the best my son ever did was get a bronze medal in hurdles and little ass at the age of about under 12s or something. But I had their mates that I was coaching, their friends, the girls and the boys, were pretty good athletes in little ass, and I managed to, I got to under 15s, and I'd be coaching relays, I'd be coaching them. I had quite a big group of maybe 25 athletes, and we'd always do well in little aths. Knox would always do very, very well in little athletics. And I it got probably, when they were about 15, they'd say, well, we're not going to go into seniors if you don't follow us, you don't coach us. And that's when I made the transition to Knox Seniors
Yeah.
from Little Ass. By the way, I was still coaching Little Ass for quite a long time after that. I think I gave coaching Little Ass away in about 1998, 1999. But that started it, and then there was another coach at Knox, a distance coach who was coaching at Pam at the time, and he had a very closed group. His name was Leif Garanda, a Swedish guy, or an Australian Swede,
Mm-hmm.
and his kids, or his daughter, decided to give it away just after under 20s, and he had work commitments, and he just said, will you take over my group? So that made the group bigger, and actually it was a great transition for my little ass group and the senior group that he had,
Yeah.
and that was basically the start of the big group.
Yeah, but what intrinsically kept you in the sport? You as a person, what was it that you loved about coaching that
The athletes.
kept you coming back?
The athletes. Oh, and learning. The athletes and learning. I'd find a book or a magazine. I'd pick up a running magazine at the time. Maybe it might have been a fun run. Australian Aussie Runner magazine, or just any sort of magazines that were around at the time. And I'd be working, and I'd stop and sneak off somewhere for lunch, maybe a Macca's. And all I wanted to do was get away and read an article.
Yeah.
And, oh yeah, geez, read something. That sounds really good. I love what that coach was doing with that athlete.
Yeah.
And they were the sort of, I think I was infatuated with it.
Had a passion.
Yeah, definitely a passion. Still got a passion for it. But I've got a passion for other things too.
Yeah.
Now, like grandkids,
Yes, of course.
family.
Yeah.
But I think, I was infatuated.
Yeah. Yeah.
With distance coaching, I just wanted to learn as much as I could, and sometimes I'd go up to another coach and I'd be embarrassed. I'd be scared. I told that story to Peter Fortune, when he had his fantastic route round 2000 Olympics. And I'd go into Olympic Park and take maybe a Haley in, and I'd sort of be in a corner, and I'd get Haley to get in the group with them and do a bit of work with them, and g'day Ford, how are you going? And I didn't want to bother him because he had a Kathy Freeman. And I tell him that story, and he can't believe it. He just said, I can't believe you were like that. And I said, well, I was. I said, I admired the guys that I was competing against as a coach, and that's with athletes competing against them, like Ford and like Scrivo, Nicky Frey, another classic, like Nicky Frey she'd be another mentor to me, but we sort of started together.
Yeah.
And I used to, see her group and her group of athletes, and admire a group of athletes, and we'd always be competing against each other.
Yeah, she was fantastic.
And, you know, like I'd always think, and don't get me wrong when I'm saying this, but I'd say what a great looking woman to be out there coaching, and I'd have this, you know, I admire, she was just good.
She was.
Nice lady.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. Yes, I think generally in the athletics community, anyone that knew Nikki thinks the same thing.
Yeah.
What a great lady.
Yeah, I'd love her back.
Contributed a lot.
Come back, Nikki.
Yeah. Yeah. So some of your sessions, I'm sure there's coaches out there that would love to know Richard Huggins' classic sessions. What are your favourites?
Well, one of the classics, like, I'll just give it a Zach Paddo session. By the way, the sessions that I was doing back then, and the sessions that, and this is one of the reasons I got on really well with Jack Russell, when Jack Russell was writing the programs for Jeff, and also writing them for Kayla at the time too. They were very, very similar to what I was doing. And I'd look at the programs, I'd look at the aerobic values, the anaerobic values, do the maths of how much aerobic work there was to how much anaerobic work there was, high-end aerobics, high-end anaerobic, low-end aerobic, low-end anaerobic, and I'd look at that and I think, well, that's very similar to what I've been doing anyway. I picked up a lot of my training programs from a Pam, from a Tom Kelly, a lot of the workouts from them, Nick, a lot of his workouts. So I just had that, I sort of picked out what fitted with the group and what I believed wasn't going to fit with the group. So Zach would be doing something like, we do a session one Tuesday night. He'd start off on doing maybe a 2K, and he might have to do that at, say, the age of 18. He'd be doing that in something like about 74, 75 seconds. So not super hard, but workable. So that was getting an aerobic side in. Then we'd do a maybe a 1600, a big session, worked out to around about a 6K block. And he'd do that a little bit quicker, so he'd be doing that around 73, 72s. Then we'd be doing the 1200 in 68s, 69s or just under 70s. And we'd keep on stepping down, so we'd have that step down workout. And it'd step right down to 400 or 200, depending. And he loved that type of workout, still does it, and we do a workout similar to that today. We sort of don't do the 2K very much, but it'll start off at a mile, 1600.
What about your hill?
Always hills, there was always hills.
What's an example of a hill session you do?
A hill session would be, well, the classic one, what we still do today, is 2K, 1K, 2K, 1K, 2K. Is that right? 2K, 1K, 2K, 1K, 6K of work. But now they're doing 8K of work or 10K of work on hills, these boys. And they're doing them pretty fast for the session. We've got times, I know, for example, Jeff and Kayla and Melissa, the ones that train at Zach, the ones that train at Police Paddocks, and we used to train then every Saturday, I knew how they'd go out in their, when they had competition. I'd line it up and I'd know how they would compete at track. Sort of, they were coming into a Zatopek, for example. Zach would have been at under 20s. I knew how he was going to go. I knew he was going to be up there with the top three. And I could always judge by how they performed.
Did you do any formal testing, or it was just off what time?
Yeah, the boys were tested. Again, I think it was through Nikki. Managed to get Zach and Ryan tested through Nikki. James has been tested. Just been tested through the VIS, of course. Carla was tested through the VIS. They were tested on track, field testing, and that we do the testing, and we'd adjust up our thresholds, for example, to suit what the outcome of the testing was. Another police panic session is up a hill. We've got a hill. It's an incline of about, I think it's 38 degrees if we want to be technical, because I put a
Sure you did.
I put a protractor on it, and I'd run that hill and I'd do 60-second or sometimes 90-second, 75, 60, 45, 30 and 15.
Yep.
And the idea was you wouldn't even have to give them times for that. They'd naturally get quicker. As the shorter, it's not science, but as the shorter they ran, like their 90 would always be, by the time they got to the 60 metre, maybe a second or two slower than their 60 second. And then you look down to their 30 second, it was quicker again than what their 60 second was. So we'd use that workout, and that was a very good workout that we'd use maybe 10 days out of competition. It might be their last hill session. So that was another paddock session. I had lots of different sessions, 1300s, which Jeff Rising would say today was still the toughest session he ever did. We don't do that anymore because I found as these boys are older, we used to have to run under a gate. They can't run under the gate, can't get under the gate as good as what they used to be able to. So we don't do the 1300 session anymore.
What was that one?
It was just a full out, solid aerobic 1300.
Yeah.
So just all hills,
Yeah.
up and down. They'd always finish off with a very hard hill to finish.
And what about some of your anaerobic workouts? What are they?
Anaerobic, they're just mainly the standard ones, 200s. We might session of 6.2s, of 30 seconds.
Yep.
Some might be of 20 seconds. One I used to do with the guys, I believe it's an old Ron Clark one, was we do a short session of 100s for a person in 800, sort of an 800 workout. That'd be 110 seconds rest, another 110 seconds rest. We do another one where we do 7 100s, where you do 100, walk back 50, or jog back 50, into another 100, jog back 50, until you got round the lap. I think that's an old Scrivo one, I think. So, yeah, that was one of the standard anaerobic workouts, some of the standard anaerobic workouts. And another anaerobic workout, we might do a 400 and then kick down over the last 200 with 2 steps downs. One at 500 and then finish off 600. So you'd use that for finishing, where you try to kick down the last 200, and especially the last 100. And we do that. I did a workout similar to that with James when he was overseas, because James believed he needed a little bit more speed in his legs. So we sort of focused on that a little bit for a short period of time. So just you can make up workouts to suit the athlete. Basically as you go along, as long as they're going to work out the need. Like if an athlete feels, or if you feel as a coach, feels like, why does he fail? Why can't he get more speed in his legs over the last 100? Certainly there's runners that have got natural speed that if they've ran their race well enough, they can kick them down. But then you've got to ask the athlete that maybe not have that kick down, why haven't you taken it out earlier in the race to try to wear the legs off that 1500 athlete, 1500 metre athlete, or 800 metre athlete? And the only way you can develop speed is do a bit of speed. You don't have to do a lot. But I remember an old Tommy Kelly saying was, Richard, never get too far away from speed. And that was one of his, famous adages.
Yeah, a shame we can't interview
Tommy,
Mr. Kelly.
he'd have a million stories. But I mean, Tommy's legend's going to live on through people like myself, people that knew him, same as Pam, people that knew Pam. And still a lot of people that knew and loved Pam and loved Tommy. You know, Peter Fortune, for example, used to, I'm sure Pam used to mother Peter. You'd always get a good feed up there. You go up there for a Sunday lunch or dinner, you know, you get the famous English roast. Fantastic.
And Nat Rule come through.
Nat Rule come through Tommy,
Yeah.
and then onto me, and then onto Gav, and
Yeah.
now onto Nick. And I think she's still very, very much a talent, and I hope she goes on with it. Very much athlete of the
She's
future.
doing great.
She reminds me very much of a Melissa Duncan. Just kind of hanging there. She's had a lot less injuries than Melissa
Yeah.
for her age. She's not going to hang in there, do the work. Probably, I know Nick sort of doesn't coach it. Maybe Tim's got more of a holdover at the moment.
Yep.
But as long as she sticks with that group and works pretty hard, I think she'll go all right.
Yeah, yeah. I hope so.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a pleasure to have you in. Thanks for coming in again and hearing about your coaching journey.
Yeah. Well, my voice is nearly gone.
I know, we've been at it for a while. But thanks again, really appreciate it.
Okay.